Don't let me. I ramble a lot. You know what I mean?
I like rambling.
Well,
ramble away. Well, tell me about this diner here. What is the history of this diner?
Well, it was originally brand new in Parsippany, New Jersey, back in 1942. It's a 42 model. It's called the Mahoney Diner, the name of it. And it stayed in New Jersey from 1942 to 1962. And there's a businessman in Marion, Virginia, decided he was going to set up the diner. So he goes up, and at that point, they split this diner in the middle. Two parts. It's never had wheels under it. I mean, it's a permanent, it's a fixture. And they moved it down in Virginia, Marion, Virginia.
What was your personal first experiences in this diner?
Well, I finished up my military time in Marion, Virginia, and I was in a reserve up there. And I used to go out and have breakfast, and that was back in 1972, 73. I used to have breakfast. Seemed like I always ended up in this booth right back here to have my breakfast.
Which one?
This one here in the middle.
Oh, the middle one?
Yep. But anyway, I had never, I thought about the diner, but I was speaking to a friend one weekend, and he said, "What are you doing?" And I was working on this caboose up here, and I was going to turn it into a little sweet shop. But nevertheless, he said, "Why don't you come up here and buy this diner?" And I said, "Okay." And anyway, I checked into it, and fortunately, I did buy it. And we brought it down here in 2002 and set it up. And from there, the service station came while I was up there. I acquired it. And
what did you have for breakfast here?
What I have for breakfast, I'd always have ham and eggs and biscuits, and they had real good food. And
where was the grill? I don't see a place for the grill.
It had a building attached.
Oh, okay.
But this was meant to be cooked in from here. But when they moved it from New Jersey to Virginia, they attached a building on the back, and the kitchen was back there.
Oh, okay, through that door there.
Yeah, they did all the grilling back in there, and then of course I didn't put the building back on it when I moved it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I've been told a lot of stories. I had a good friend in the military that had a service station right beside the diner during all the time in the 60s and that. But anyway, he's telling me all kinds of stories. He said that they had like 3 menus with 3 different prices. They had a tourist price, and they was right off the interstate, 81. And he said the buses would pull in, and they got the different set of menus out. And local people had a menu.
Yeah.
And I don't know who the other qualified.
Military guys, probably.
Well, I don't know. There's unique owners that owned it. I come to know them pretty good. But
so what attracted you to it? Why would you bring it here?
Why did I want it here?
Yeah.
Well, that goes back to the beginning.
Go ahead, let her go.
In the mid-90s, we have a business up at the top of the hill, and I had been up there striving for 30 years, and I hired a guy to help me run the office, and I didn't feel comfortable enough to just leave it all to him, so I guess I would come down here and play a while, and I'd go back up and observe what was going on, back and forth. But anyway, what really started it all was where I grew up back in the mid-90s, mid to later 90s. The gentleman that owned the grocery store had a stroke and become disabled.
And where was this, Blackwater?
Blackwater, Virginia.
Yeah.
But anyway, I heard that they was wanting to sell some of the items, and I went over to get a coffee machine, was my thought. And I got over there and I ended up with 2 truckloads.
Wow. Now tell me about this coffee machine. You had a long history with this coffee machine, didn't you?
Well, you know, in 1953, they had had an old store since the 20s, but he built a new store in 1930. And of course, in 1953, I was only 3 years old. And I'd go in and his all new stuff in that store in the early 50s. But that coffee grinder was red and black and gold stripes and shiny Harper. You know what I mean? It was real. And it didn't take a lot to amaze a kid in 1953. And I'd go in and I'd stare at that coffee grinder, I guess, when I was a kid. And of course, look at some toys. But that coffee grinder fascinated me for some reason when I was a child. And when I heard that he'd had the stroke and they was closing down, I thought, you know, I think I want that coffee grinder. But I didn't know at that time that I was going to be building a store.
Right.
But I got a lot of merchandise, or old stuff from the 50s and probably some of it from the 40s and whatever on back. But I came over here and I got to looking and I thought, well, what am I going to do with this stuff? And I thought, I'm not going to sell it. I don't want to, you know, I want to keep it. So I kept looking at that poster, that Coca-Cola poster, and I thought, I'm going to build me a store like this.
So at that time, Memory Lane didn't exist. This was just a hill.
This all was taking place in 97, 96, 97, 98, and I think 98 is when I actually built the store.
Okay.
And the next thing, I got the old caboose.
Now let's tell me about the caboose. If I remember correctly, that was shortly after I came to Hawkins County in 98 that burned. It was in Rogersville, right?
Yep, that's correct.
It was at the depot.
Yeah, it was at the depot, at the railroad depot, and after it burned some, and they didn't destroy it, but it damaged it pretty heavy inside. And I got it over here and thought about trying to restore it and had distorted some stuff that would be hard to replace. So I thought I'll just build me a little something to resemble the diner, a little sweet shop in it. And never did complete it. I've not decided which way to go with it.
It's still sitting up there? Still
sitting up there, and I did all the inside with intentions of putting booths and making some kind of little diner-like thing. And ended up, then I changed my mind and may make living quarters. Then I don't know. I'm not decided yet. It's basically roughly finished inside, but after the caboose, and then I built this building over here to store the old muscle cars in. And
that's the Ford dealership?
Actually, this building right over here is one I built next. And
where the Texaco station is?
Actually, yeah, the building behind it.
Yeah, okay.
And then I acquired the service station out of Saltville, Virginia.
Okay.
It's an old porcelain Texaco. You don't see them anymore hardly. But anyway, and it just kept going. And
well, tell me about that Texaco station. What is the origins of that, or the history of it?
I'm sorry?
The history of the Texaco station.
Well, there's just a nice little lady up there wanted it removed, and she actually donated it to me. And I give a little love offering for it. But anyway, our former sheriff, Wayne Clevenger, used to work in that station.
Really?
Yeah.
Did I know that?
When he was real young.
Yeah.
And he grew up in that area. And but nevertheless, he, I built a service station, and it seemed like car clubs was promoting me to have a little cruise in, and it just kept. I was in gear, and here I went.
So you put the gas station to face on the front of your building where your muscle cars are.
Yes, I kindly regret not building it out to itself, but that's water on the bridge. But
it's kind of neat though, because you go through there and then you're in like an old car museum.
The old back of it's full of old cars, but. We built a little memory lane drive-in theater, and we show vintage, period correct movies back in the day, the 50s and 60s movies. Everybody seems to enjoy that. But
so the way I heard about this was from folks in town told me that you would just have like friendly get-togethers. It wasn't like a public festival or anything, but friendly get-togethers for folks in town to come over and enjoy the property.
Our first show our show. I won't call it, it's like a cruise in, and we get together. And the car club, Random Rod Car Club, they said, let's have a little get together or whatever. And we was expecting 30, 40 old cars. And we ended up having more like 100. And then we decided next year we'd just have a show on a 50s party, or in other words, not just a car show. We wanted it to feel like you was lost in the 50s. It's 2002, and we had gone from the first year with no advertising or nothing, just I don't know how the word got out, but we had upward of 100 vehicles. And next year I think we had 270 some, and next year we had 400. Next year it went to 600 vehicles, and by about 5 or 6 years in, it was getting up close to 1,000 cars a year that we was having.
Right, and then spectators too. You had a big spectator turnout, didn't you?
Oh yeah, that was 1,000 show cars, and we would have tons. I think one year I talked to all the people parked the cars across the road, spectators, and I think we got up toward 3,000 spectator cars coming and going all day. I mean, they charge a little parking fee, and they know what they had, and we never did have tickets and know exactly how many people was here, but I think it'd been upward of 10,000 people come through here on a weekend, back, in and out all day.
So let's not get too far ahead though. Now we were talking about you started having the shows, and then every year you added something.
I'd add something about every year.
Yeah.
We, the store was first, and the drive-in, and the caboose, and all this, and then the station, and then the diner. And
when did Main Street evolve?
We just thought we'd fill up over there, and we just kind of, well, as a friend gave me, or his daughter worked for Bailey's Sports Bar over in Carolinas, and they donated me 2 duck pin bowling lanes, complete. I mean, they were working, and so when I got those, I thought, well, I'll do this corner over here.
You got a bowling alley.
Yeah, duck pen. Yeah, and then we got the old pool table and jukeboxes and pinball machines, and we started that thing, and then we done the fire department. I thought every little place needed a little fire department. And
where'd you get your fire truck?
As a matter of fact, I bought my first one that came from Mount Carmel. I bought it off a guy. Bought it from Mount Carmel.
Oh, okay. What year is that one?
It was an old 53 GMC.
So it's up with the time of the era of Montgomery Lane.
Well, we ended up, Lakeview had used this one for a backup. And they felt like it needed to be up here, and it is a much prettier truck.
Oh, okay.
A 59 Ford. Oh. But anyway, and we did a little jail. You got to have a jail if you got a
City
village.
Hall, yeah. It's kind of like Mayberry.
Yeah, and we got a bank and a pretend bank. And of course, I think you go around and come in the back, and it's a doctor's office if you come in the back.
Oh, okay.
We got the old dentist chairs that I've had my teeth worked on by Mr. Paul Wayne over here.
Oh, I don't think I've seen the back of it before.
Built a little radio and TV repair shop.
Yeah, I saw that. There's lots of stuff. Where'd you get all that stuff that's in there? The old TVs and radios?
We've had a lot of. We never did charge anything here, as you might know. And we've actually had a lot of people that contributed and donated, and we've had to buy. We bought some and whatever. But
it's like a museum in there.
Yeah, actually, the guy's name on the window, you noticed it wasn't Emmett like on Mayberry. Harry Hall's a good friend of mine, and he's the one that keeps this jukebox going, and he does everybody's. I mean, he's a great jukebox guy. So I figured his name deserved to be on there more than Emmett.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, then we got a little body shop, and I think I'm gonna do a little additional building.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about. Let's get to that here in a little bit, though.
Okay.
All right. So Now you've got all that stuff, and this is basically a little town. You could incorporate this and have a town.
Yeah.
Pretty much. But tell me about the Lustron house and the trailer park. That was kind of the next era, wasn't it?
Well, the Lustron home came a couple years after the diner, and it was right here local.
What is a Lustron home?
Lustron home was a metal prefab home that you could have a concrete slab on Monday, and Saturday you could move your stuff in. I mean, it was originated in 1949 after World War II, and there was such a shortage of homes, all the soldiers coming back from war, and some bright guy figured that you could make a prefab house, and they only built amongst 2,300. I can't remember the exact number, and of course they went bankrupt. They was a little expensive. Anyway, the Lustron home there's a couple in Kingsport, maybe 3 in Kingsport. And
there's one right behind the Times News.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's one in Scornville, and there was one here in Rogersville. I mean, they was scattered all over, everywhere.
So how did you acquire yours?
There's a young lady over here on McKinney Avenue that was wanting to build a new home, and they had built that home back in supposedly 1950. And I think the Heritage Association was insisting on it not being destroyed, and so we ended up, we were the guinea pig that took it, and.
So you had to pick it up and carry it over here?
We disassembled it.
Oh, wow.
Disassembled it and put a foundation down. And I had 2 guys that was working pretty frequent for me. And they went over, and it took them 2 weeks to disassemble it and lay it on a trailer. And we brought it over here. And it took them only 3 weeks to put it back up. So they got about 5 weeks to take down and put up.
Wow.
And,
now, one of the things that I really admire about that is how you furnished it. Where did you come up with all that stuff? And I'll tell you why it's special to me. When I was growing up in the 70s, my parents were real young parents, and they took hand-me-down stuff from their elders, and that was the era of stuff that you have in there. So that's basically the furnishings I grew up with.
Well, actually, yes. My wife, she had more interest than she had the same interest that I did. I mean, every weekend we were going and looking for stuff and all over. Carolinas and we just bought bits and pieces everywhere. I mean, and of course we had quite a bit of stuff already, but that is my favorite. I'm truly lost in the 50s and 60s furnishing, but I think some of the coolest stuff, all the pastel colors, and I mean, everything was
the shape of it.
Yeah, it was really neat, and there's a lot of Art Deco stuff on back a little bit. But nevertheless, I don't know. I just truly enjoy anything that represents the 50s or 60s era.
So you've got, I mean, that's move-in ready up there, ain't it?
Yeah. I've not got any the water. We have to keep the water off. I just keep this stuff heated to non-freezing temperature, And
then you've got a little mini trailer park up there too.
Yeah,
that's your residential neighborhood up there.
I think we just got to looking at it as a little village. We got the junkyard, salvage yard of old vintage cars, and I thought, I think I'm going to just do a little trailer park. So we got only 4 trailers, but I just started bringing them in, setting them up to represent a old trailer park. We got one good-looking little trailer. I think you may have been in it before.
Where they filmed the zombie movie?
The first one is 1952 model.
All right. And so you've got your residential neighborhood set up there. What came next? Because you've got kind of a suburb down in the field, right?
Yeah, we built a beautiful little church down there.
Yeah,
you know that, and we've actually had real services in it. And not only that, there's several churches around that's got baptistries. But anyway, some people request to be baptized in the creek. And they come here and do it out behind the church.
Wow.
A lot. I mean, pretty frequent. and was having a lot of weddings, but that got to be too big a job for me. So we had the weddings was becoming real frequent, and it was pretty good to tie up the whole weekend for you. This is not a business; this is a hobby,
Right.
and I don't want to make a business out of it. But anyway, we built a church, and of course, I built a little home down there.
Tell me, there's a story behind that, isn't there?
Yeah, that was my uncle's house. I never did. I probably stayed all night, 2 nights when I was first born. That's all I ever stayed in it.
Didn't you tell me you were born there? Or?
I was born. It's got the stuff. You may want to whatever. I got the bed I was made on.
Made or came out?
No. Still not. The story behind the house is I was born at home, and we'd had a flood, and we could get trapped in over there where I grew up if the water got high enough. So Mother was worried that something might happen. She didn't like being trapped in during the flood. So we went up to my uncle's house, I went with them too. But anyway, went to my uncle's house, and I was born behind the doors and windows. The old house was getting pretty rough here back in the early 2000s. So before it totally fell, I went over and got the doors, got the windows, took the measurements, done everything. I built it identical to the old house. The story behind that is there's like 3 different people that give me log cabins, and I was too lazy to go get them and take them down. And my wife, she'd, I wish you'd got one of those log homes, and put it down beside the church. And I finally got tired of hearing that, so I just went and recreated the old house I was born in. But
now we've got your suburb and the junkyard. Now that junkyard, I've been so impressed by that junkyard. That junkyard is probably $1 million junkyard. If you try to sell,
we have a lot of photographers come here, and I think the junkyard is used more. The covered bridge. I didn't mention it.
Right, I was getting to the bridge.
But the old junkyard is where 80% of the pictures are taken, I guess. I don't know. People like the old cars behind, and all of those are. I think about every one of them is at least mid to early 60s back, and I don't even know how many's over there. There's probably more than 100.
And they're pretty solid too. I mean, body parts look pretty solid.
I don't. There's a lot of people that wants to buy parts. I don't really promote that. They're more or less monuments. I like to drive by down here and listen to them rust.
Yeah.
But anyway,
it's like a museum.
Yeah, I mean, you can help a friend, but I'm not really in the selling business, and then I kept wanting to acquire more land. Well, when our car show got up about 700, up in the 700s, we ran out. I mean, we couldn't park anymore over here, and I kept trying to buy this property, and I ended up having to buy. Of course, I developed a subdivision up on top, but anyway, I had to buy more land than I wanted, and that's when I did the subdivision. But then, when I bought this land over here, I figured it was time to build a covered bridge, and so we made access across the creek to a covered bridge, and I guess.
How did you acquire that Quonset Hut?
Actually, a man tried to give it to me, and I didn't think I needed it. And then I ran into an old vintage plane, and then I got to thinking, I did need that.
That's like the coffee grinder. You didn't need the store until you had the coffee grinder. You didn't need the Quonset Hut until you had the airplane.
Well, there's been a lot of people that come along with ideas and suggestions, and everybody's been very helpful. And I feel bad that we're not having the show like we did before, because everybody was enthused, everybody wanted to help, everybody.
And it was quite an era.
Oh yeah, and we just grew to
everybody looked forward to it every year. It was like, mark your calendar.
We've had sickness 2 years of all this, and then we've had almost we thought about retirement, but that's never going to happen as long as I can walk. But anyway, we just had some things at my life, at my point in life, age, and probably going to try to pick up the nerve to do it again.
Yeah.
It got pretty big.
Yeah, it did.
It got pretty big when you get to having.
It was an institution, basically. It became an institution.
It just about got too big.
Yeah.
And it just that's the way that's what happened, and it's still not too late. Maybe if we live to do something else.
Mm-hmm. So, let's see. What are we missing? There's the.
Well, we didn't mention the local Ford dealer giving me the Ford sign.
Yeah.
Well, actually, there's a friend that acquired it, I should say. And it seemed like even the motel sign, the Lance Motel sign over there, those people tried to buy that sign. And the lady called me up and she said, listen, she said, I can sell the sign, but she said, I don't want to sell it. She said, come over and get it. I know you're going to do something with it. Mm-hmm. And, and this is the old Skelton Motel sign out here. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, I did change the name on it. But people have been very helpful.
So you got a Ford dealership and you got a Chrysler Plymouth dealership up on the hill.
Yeah.
How'd that come about?
Well, I was just over in Charlotte and ran into I guess it don't take much for me to build something. If I can just get one little item.
Yeah.
I ran into the sign part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just build a building. And
you already had the Chryslers, so.
Yeah. I've got an old 59 Chrysler and a 57 Plymouth sitting in there. But all this stuff is just kind of a simulated flashback, something
And the Roxy Theater.
Roxy Theater, yep. They tore it down back in, I don't remember what year, demolished the old Roxy Theater. Mm-hmm. And it was during Heritage Days, they was involved in this during Heritage Days. They had an auction, and they was auctioning the memorabilia stuff away. It was the stuff out of the theater at that auction. And there was a lady who lived in Knoxville, just happened to be up here visiting the Heritage Days. And she walked in with nothing in mind, and I think she bought the Roxy Marquee. I think it only brought like $200, and she bought it. And I don't know what her plan was with it, but anyway, it wasn't too much after that. Not long after that, she contacted me, and she said, you need this. And I said, yeah, I do. And she was kind enough. I think I recouped her money, but.
Now, I know you had a plan to build a small theater. Is there a theater in there?
As a matter of fact, I was over in Virginia where I got a bunch of stuff stored. And I pulled the theater seats out this past Thursday, 3 days ago, I guess 4 days ago. And and I'm going to try to just build a little theater in there. And I had in mind at the time, that was 4 or 5 years ago, and I finally blocked everything. But anyway, I had in mind when we had a show that I was going to have a small seating in there, maybe 20, 25 people or whatever. And running.
Just kind of continuous, people come and go type thing?
Yeah, actually, if nothing else, you could, we have videos here every year when we did the show. And if nothing else, I guess you can go in there and watch some of the previous videos, or you can show a movie or whatever. But
Thunder Road.
yeah, Thunder Road. We've showed Thunder Road here a few times, and I like to always show something that people don't normally see on TV. American Graffiti was a great movie.
Yeah.
But everybody's seen it over and over and over.
Something obscure. There was a movie, I think you mentioned it, or somebody that had one of the Beach Boys, and it had James Taylor driving a 55 Chevy. You remember the name of that?
I can't remember the name of it.
Didn't you show that one year, though?
Oh, yeah, I did.
Yeah, black top something or other.
Two-lane black top.
Two-lane black top, that's it.
And we've showed all of the old, we try to show all the old car movies, where the Moonshiners, there's always the racing or whatever,
Yeah.
you know.
WW and the Dixie Dance Kings.
Yep,
That's a good one.
Yep. Well, I've got all those old movies.
Yeah.
And but we, you know, some people don't care much for them, but us old car people do.
Yeah.